Recording will start soon. Okay, so can you see now my screen? Okay, this one. Okay, so we are uh, discussing the last time uh, about the inventories, no? So, for sure, hindi ko natatanong sa inyo kung ano yung definition ng inventory kasi feeling ko alam nyo na yan at expert na kayo pagdating sa definition ng inventory. Na-discuss na rin natin yung mga uri ng mga inventory. So, yung finished goods, work in process, raw materials, factory and supplies inventory, ano pa ba? Merchandise inventory, consigned goods inventory, purchased sub components. And then na-discuss na rin natin yung cost ng inventory. Of course, syempre, upon initial recognition, dapat i-record natin siya initially at historical cost. Tapos depende yan kung paano natin na-obtain yung inventory. Syempre, kapag na-obtain natin siya through purchase, the purchase cost. Kapag na-obtain natin yung inventory through processing the raw materials into finished goods, and the conversion cost. And then other costs na necessarily related for the preparation or creation of the inventory. And then na-discuss na rin natin yung inventory system. We have periodic and perpetual. And then na-discuss na rin natin last time yung inventory cost flows kung saan in-identify natin ano ba yung mga applicable cost flows kapag ang inventory ay interchangeable o kaya non-interchangeable. Siyempre, kapag non-interchangeable, we use specific identification. And then kapag interchangeable naman, we use FIFO saka moving average, weighted average. And then, discuss rin natin for the purpose of discussion yung LIFO. Though it is not allowed by the accounting standard, by PAS 2, kasi hindi nga niya pina-properly reflect yung cost versus the revenue. Pero syempre, dahil mga accounting students kayo, kahit na pinagbabawal yung method na yon, kailangan malaman nyo siya kasi there are very rare instances kung saan yung ibang business industries, kailangan nilang gamitin yun kasi parang mas yun yung tama para sa kanila. So, yun po yun. Alright, so, okay. Let me just discuss one exercise that we have on our handout materials. Can you see the handout materials here? Yung screen ko po. Nakikita niyo po ba?
Yes.
Okay. So, before we discuss the one exercise here in the handout materials, so discuss muna natin yung techniques. Meron kasi tayong ginagamit na technique sa pag-measure ng inventory. There are cases kasi na hindi natin sila kayang i-measure accurately na eksakto. Kasi syempre sa sobrang dami nung inventory, paano natin siya ma-measure ng accurately? For example, there are 5 million na karayom. Isang warehouse ng karayom, 5 million lahat ng piraso doon sa sa warehouse. Kung kayo yung accountant, can you conduct a physical count of needles na 5 milyon sa isang araw? Kaya niyo po bang bilangin yon, yung 5 milyon na yon? No. So it would be impossible for us to count it exactly sa kamabilisan yung 5 million pesos, yung 5 million pieces ng needle. So for us, para syempre for the purpose of reporting, kasi syempre ang reporting should be timely, di ba? Hindi naman pwedeng paghintayin natin yung mga stakeholders natin na wait lang po, nagbibilang pa kasi kami ng mga karayom. 5 million po tong mga karayom na nasa warehouse. Syempre gusto namin accurate yung i-report namin. So, syempre hindi makakapaghintay yung mga stakeholders natin hindi makakapaghintay yung stakeholders natin for just for the inventory na karayom lang. Kasi ang gusto nila, makita yung buo. So, for us, to prepare the reports timely, saka fairly presented, we can do some techniques. We can use some techniques that, like for inventory, we do inventory estimation. So for estimating inventories, we have actually that's three method. We have three method. First one is the retail inventory method. So yung retail inventory method, saan kaya natin to ginagamit, yung retail inventory method? Ginagamit natin to, of course, with the retail industries. Siyempre, sa retail industries, dahil fast-moving ang inventories, and then mabilis maibenta yung ibang mga produkto at halo-halo na yung mga produkto, di ba? So, like for example, kung titingnan natin yung sari-sari store. Kung titignan natin yung sari-sari store, di ba halo-halo na yung mga paninda doon. So, yung mga chichirya, tabi-tabi. So, ano pa ba? Yung mga mantika, doon, sama-sama, mga Coke, Sprite, 7-Up, RC Cola. So, sama-sama yun. Siyempre, imagine natin what more kung yung sari-sari store na iniisip natin. Inimagine natin is not only the sari-sari store na nakikita natin dyan sa tabi. Yung maraming bumibili talaga. Sobrang dami. So, for us, kung mga accountant, hindi natin na kailangan i-count iyon exactly na ilan lahat ng inventory for soft drinks, ilan lahat ng inventory for chichirya, ilan lahat ng inventory for noodles. So for us, we conduct an inventory estimation depende sa kung ano yung similar inventory items na meron doon sa isang sari-sari store. So yun yung ginagamit natin, yung retail inventory method. May isa tayong ginagamit, gross profit method. Yung gross profit method naman, normally ginagamit natin ito kapag merong nasunog o kaya na damage ng flood, inventories na damage ng flood, ng sunog, ng earthquake, kung saan it would be very impossible for us to conduct an actual count of inventory. Kung makaka-conduct man tayo ng actual count of inventory, syempre yung maka-count lang natin yung mga saleable goods, yung mga usable goods lang. Pero yung mga na-destroy na ng fire, ng earthquake, ng flood, natangay ng flood, hindi na natin sila kaya i-count pa kasi nawala na, natupok na ng apoy o kaya napipi na dahil gumuho yung isang building. So we use gross profit estimation para ma-estimate ano ba talaga yung actual ending inventory at that time. Supposedly walang naganap na casualty. Tapos magkano yung difference ng actual inventory na na-count nyo, kasi siyempre makakount nyo mga saleable or usable goods versus doon sa estimated inventory. So, the difference will be the loss. So, yun lang yun. Ganun yung sa gross profit estimation. We also have standard cost method. Yung standard cost method naman, ito ginagamit to sa manufacturing companies. I'm sure na pag-aralan nyo na to sa cost accounting. So standard costing is also known as normal costing. So napag-aralan nyo na po ba yung standard costing or normal costing? Do you have any idea?
Yes po.
Yes. So yung standard costing, also known as normal costing, ginagamit ito ng mga manufacturing company. Kasi sa sobrang dami ng pumapasok na raw materials sa kanila, always merong labor force, always merong nako-consume na factory overheads. So it will be very impractical for all of them, especially for the cost accountants, to measure accurately the cost of inventory based on the actual cost. So syempre dahil they're doing it by batch processing. Kasi 'di ba we have job order costing. So yung job order costing kada job order. And then syempre kapag maramihan yung pinoproduce mo, you're producing it by batches. So batch process costing naman yung tawag doon. Yung job order costing paunti-unti lang yan mga specialized job works lang yon, job per job cost lang yon, per job order. So yung batch processing naman kapag continuous yung process, like for example si Procter and Gamble, si Unilever, they create soaps, shampoos, di ba, tuloy-tuloy yon. So they create it by batches. So batch process costing yung ginagamit natin. So pag batch process costing, they use standard costing method kung saan yung mga materials, labor, sa factory overhead, they have standard cost rate na ginagamit. So yung standard cost rate naman na to, nire-review nila to regularly kung saan syempre kapag na-identify nila ay ito mas tama pala itong cost driver na ito pala yung mas okay, mas fairly presented yung costing kapag ito yung cost driver na ginamit natin. So hindi pa pwedeng na dahil may standard cost ka na set ka na standard cost, yun na yun. So you have to review it every year or every quarter, every month. So depende doon sa company. So yun yung tatlong estimations na methods na pwedeng gamitin. So we have retail inventory method for retail industries, gross profit method for manufacturing companies or retail or merchandising companies na nagkaroon ng sunog o kaya other casualties, and then standard costing method naman for manufacturing companies. So let's try to discuss muna yung gross profit method. So i-discuss na lang natin next meeting yung ibang inventory method. So try natin yung gross profit method. So let's try one exercise. Hanap tayo ng isang exercise. This one. Exercise 7, inventory estimation during fire loss. So we have inventory estimation during fire loss now. You were engaged to audit the inventory of Universal Robina Corporation on April 30, 2021 to determine amount of raw materials destroyed by fire that occurred that day. Work in process and finished goods were placed in a different warehouse not affected by the fire. A physical count was immediately conducted on April 30, 2021, and the following balances were obtained. Work in process, 10,000. Finished goods, 85,000. So, kung ititignan natin yung problem, ano tong finished goods na to saka work in process? Is that ending inventory or beginning inventory?
Ending inventory po.
Ending po.
Yes,
Ending
that's correct.
po.
That's correct. So, unang-una, 'di ba? So lagi sinasabi sa inyo ng mga professor ninyo, yung mga accounting students hindi lang dapat magaling sa math. So, dapat kailangan magaling din tayo, marami rin tayong baon na vitamin E or English. So, for sure, dahil second year na kayo, kayang-kaya nyo na yan. Kaya-kaya nyo na interpret yung problem. So, okay na tayo with letter A, di ba? So, ending inventory. Establish na natin, those are ending inventories. Letter B. A copy of 2020 financial statements indicated the following inventory balances at December 31, 2020. Raw materials, 20K. Work in process, 60K. Finished goods, beginning inventory, ending inventory. Anyone inventory or ending inventory?
Beginning.
So letter B. Beginning or ending?
Beginning po pala.
Beginning.
Beginning. Yeah. So because if you will see, that's December 31, 2020. So yan yung beginning ng January 1, 2021. And then letter C, purchases for the period January 1 to April 30 amounted to 32,000 pesos. So that is raw materials purchases, and goods are sold to a markup of 50% based on cost. Universal Robina was not able to provide you with other information about 2021 transaction because the company's records were also destroyed by the fire. So, sinabi ng problem, hindi na raw kaya magbigay ni URC ng ibang information kasi nasama rin daw pala yun sa sunog, yung mga accounting records. So, based on your inquiry from the client's personnel, you determined that raw materials used was equivalent to 20% of the total manufacturing cost, and that total manufacturing cost was 60% of the cost of goods manufactured. So, ano daw ang requirement? Raw materials na ginamit, raw materials na nawala do sa sunog, cost of goods manufactured, saka total sales. So, para mas maintindihan natin kung paano natin ito kukumputin, kailangan alam natin kung ano ba yung computation ng cost of sales. So, how do we compute cost of sale under a manufacturing concern? How do we compute cost of sale under manufacturing concern? Anyone? Di ba may cost accounting na kayo? So you have raw materials. Beginning. Tama po ba?
Yes po.
Raw materials beginning.
Yes po.
Add
Purchases.
raw materials purchases. So you have raw materials purchases. So the raw materials purchases should be net, diba? So how do you compute for the raw materials purchases? So you have raw materials purchases, add freight in on raw materials. Then you get gross raw materials purchases. Then you deduct
Purchase returns.
yes, tama. That's correct. Purchase returns, and allowances. Ano pa po?
Purchase
Sales
discount.
Purchase discounts. Correct. Then you get the net
Net purchase.
raw materials purchases. So you have that. So by adding the raw materials beginning saka raw materials purchases, net raw materials purchases, you get total
Materials available.
Available for use.
That's correct. Total raw materials available for use. And then you add, from the total raw materials available for use, you add
direct labor.
or you deduct?
Deduct po.
Deduct.
Deduct. You deduct raw
Raw
materials
materials ending.
Ending po.
ending. And then from deducting the raw materials ending, you get raw materials
Use.
used. So that is the raw materials used. And then from the raw materials used, you add what?
Work in process.
Work in process beginning.
Mali po.
Direct labor po.
Direct labor.
Po.
So you add direct labor. So that's correct. You add direct labor. Ano pa?
Factory overhead.
Correct. Factory overhead. So yung iba tawag dyan manufacturing overhead, yung iba factory overhead, yung iba FOH. So para hindi kayo malito kung ano yung mga term na ginagamit, para lang yun. Factory overhead, manufacturing overhead, FOH, FO, yung iba yung tawag ano. So raw materials and direct labor, ang tawag dyan ay prime cost, di ba? So prime cost silang dalawa, prime cost. So silang dalawa, si raw materials saka si direct labor ay prime cost. And then direct labor saka si factory overhead, sila ay conversion cost. So para mas madali natin ma-identify, di ba? Adding these three costs, you get total
Manufacturing.
Cost. So from the total manufacturing cost,
Manufacturing cost.
you add work
Working process.
process beginning.
In process.
Working process.
Work in process beginning.
Work in process beginning. Work in process inventory beginning. So from the work in process inventory beginning sa total manufacturing cost, you get total
Goods placed in process.
cost of goods placed in process. So tama po ba? Total cost of goods placed in process. Yung iba ang tawag dyan, total cost of goods put in production or placed in production. So from the total cost of goods placed in production or placed in process, you deduct work in
Work in
process
process ending.
ND. And then you get cost of goods
Cost of goods manufactured.
manufactured. Kasi ito daw yung na-manufacture mo na. Kasi dineduct mo yung work in process pa. So, syempre, yung makukuha talaga natin yung cost ng goods na na-manufacture, completed and manufactured. So, add finished goods
Beginning.
Beginning.
So, finished goods beginning. You get
Total
cost of goods
available for sale.
available for sale. And then you deduct finished goods ending. Ito yung hindi nabenta. So, kapag binawas mo yung hindi na ibenta na finished goods, you get cost of
Goods sold.
goods sold. So, cost of goods sold or cost of sale. So, yung cost of goods sold saka cost of sale, pareho lang yan. So, magkaiba lang sila ng ginagamit na terminology kasi yung cost of goods sold, ginagamit ito ng mga cost accountant. Ito daw kasi yung cost ng goods na ibenta. While yung cost of sale, ito yung ginagamit ng mga marketing team. Ang sabi kasi nila, etong binenta mo, 100 pesos, magkano yung cost ng pagbenta mo? Sabihin natin 50 pesos. So yan, sa pagbenta mo ng 100 pesos, may 50 pesos kang cost. So that is the cost of sale. So yun yung parang related sa product. So iba naman yung selling cost, selling expense. So this is the cost. Yun yung pinagkaiba, yung history or nature, bakit dalawa yung tawag natin. Cost of goods sold saka cost of sale. Alright. Okay. So, kasi ko muna yan. So, alam na natin yung, yung computation. So, let's go back to the problem. Anong sabi ng letter A? Ang sabi ng letter A, may ending inventory daw. Work in process saka finished goods. So, i-plot lang natin. Work in process ending daw yun. So, if that is work in process ending, then we have to put the 10,000 here. Nakukuha po ba? Nakakasunod po ba? Nakikita po ba yung ating
Yes po.
ayan. And then, 85,000 daw yung finished goods. So, bawas natin dito. So, nabawas natin. Lagyan natin ng underline. Okay. So, a copy of the 2020 financial statements indicated the following inventory balances. Raw materials, that is the beginning, di ba? So, lagyan natin yung raw materials beginning, 20,000 pesos. And then, meron daw work in process na 60,000 pesos. So, work in process beginning yun, 60,000 pesos. And then, meron pang finished goods na beginning, 70,000 pesos. So, ito lang yung mga binigay, no? So, yan ang mga binigay na problem. Okay. Ngayon, anong sabi? Purchases for the period January 1 to April 30 amounted to 32,000 pesos. So yung kinokomputan pala natin is mula January 1, 2021 hanggang April 30, 2021 na cost of goods sold. So meron daw purchases na 32,000 pesos. Meron po bang binigay na freight in? Wala namang binigay na freight in. So yung total gross raw materials purchases mo ay 32,000 pesos. Wala ring discounts. So yung net raw materials purchases mo ay 32,000 pesos. So nakuha na natin. So that is the net raw materials purchases. So now, dahil nakuha na natin yung net raw materials purchases, Kaya na bang computing yung raw materials available for use? Magkano yung raw
Yes,
materials
po.
available? Magkano po yan?
52,000 po.
52,000 pesos. So that is 52,000 pesos. So meron po bang binigay na raw materials ending? Wala po.
Wala po.
Wala. So hahanapin daw natin yung raw materials ending. So dahil hindi natin makuha yung raw materials ending, hahanapin din natin yung raw materials used. Diba? Ngayon, para makuha natin yan, mag-i-squeeze tayo. Kukuha tayo, dapat may available na information sa ibang details. Diba? So, based tayo dun sa problem. Anong sabi ng problem? Purchases for the period January 1 to April 30 amounted to 30,000 pesos. And goods are sold to a markup of 50% based on cost. So, yun sinabi. Wala nang ibang information kasi nasunog daw ng fire. Ngayon, sabi ng problem, based on your inquiry from the client's personnel, you determined that the raw materials used was equivalent to 20% of the total manufacturing cost. So, kung ito yung raw materials used nyo, ang sabi ng problem, equivalent daw yan sa 20%. So, this is 20% ng ano po. That is 20% of the total manufacturing cost. So, ito ang total manufacturing cost ninyo. So, kung ang total manufacturing cost nyo is 100%. Okay. So, may binigay po ba kung magkano yung total manufacturing cost? Binigay po ba? Based on the problem? Hindi din. So, dahil hindi binigay, hindi natin makukompute yung raw materials used kasi hindi binigay yung total manufacturing cost. Ngayon, para makuha natin yung total manufacturing cost, pwede tayo mag-squeeze mula sa cost of goods manufactured. Binigay po ba yung cost of goods manufactured? Binigay po ba yung cost of goods manufactured dito sa problem?
Hindi din po.
Hindi din. So dahil hindi binigay yung cost of goods manufactured, hindi rin natin makocompute yung total manufacturing cost. Pero may binigay yung problem. The total manufacturing cost was 60% of the cost of goods manufactured. So lumalabas kung yung cost of goods manufactured mo ay 100%, 60% of it came from total manufacturing cost. So total manufacturing cost daw, 60% siya ng cost of goods manufactured. So kaso wala nang binigay na cost of goods manufactured, hindi natin makocompute yung total manufacturing cost, di ba? So para makompute mo muna yung cost of goods manufactured, kailangan compute mo yung cost of sale. Binigay po ba sa problem yung cost of sale? Binigay po ba?
Wala po.
Wala din. So dahil hindi rin binigay, hindi rin natin makocompute. Kaya pa ba natin computein yan? Kaya ba bang computein yan? So, ang daming hindi binigay. So, susuko na lang po ba tayo? Kailangan ba sumuko?
Hindi po.
Hindi. So,
Hindi
dahil accounting students kayo, hindi kayo susuko. So, ang gagawin natin, saan tayo kukuha? Kukuha tayo sa kung saan merong pag-asa. Merong remaining light. Diba? Light that is being shed by the God above. So, saan tayo kukuha? Meron tayo kasi nakita dito. Sabi daw, total manufacturing cost is 60% of the cost of goods manufactured. So, ito yung cost of goods manufactured, that is 100%. And then the total manufacturing cost is 60%. Lumalabas, there is a difference of 40%. Saan mo kukunin yung 40% na yan? Saan natin kukunin yung class? 40%. Paano ba nagmo-move ang cost of goods manufactured? From total manufacturing cost, i-add mo yung work in process beginning, ililess mo yung work in process ending, then mo makukuha yung cost of goods manufactured. Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes,
Alright. Now, the total manufacturing cost is 60%. So, ano yung 40% dyan? Ano yung 40% natin dyan? The 40% there is the movement. That is the movement of work in process. So yan yung movement ng work in process mo. So magkano yung movement ng work in process mo? Paano nagkaroon ng movement? Diba you add 60,000 pesos and then you deduct 100,000 pesos. So magkano yung net movement mo? Magkano yung net movement mo po?
50,000 po.
50,000 pesos. So that's correct. So your net movement for work in process is 50,000 pesos. So lumalabas, yung 50,000 pesos, ito yung net movement ng dalawang yan. 60 saka 10,000 pesos. Ngayon, that 50,000 represents 40% of the cost of goods manufactured. So, para makuha natin yung 60%, kailangan i-gross up muna natin yung 50,000 pesos. So, paano natin i-gross up? From the 50,000, you divide it by 40%. Tama po ba? Para ma-compute mo siya to 100%. So, para na-compute na natin, magkano ang cost of goods manufactured?
125,000 pesos.
125,000 pesos. So, meron ka ng cost of goods manufactured, no? Kaya na po bang ma-compute yung total cost of goods placed in production or placed in process?
Yes.
Magkano po?
Yes po.
135.
135,000.
Magkano po?
135.
135,000.
135. So, 125,000, you add back the work in process, you get cost of goods placed in process, 135. And then total manufacturing cost, kaya na po bang computein?
Yes po.
Magkano po?
Yes po.
75,000 pesos.
75,000.
75,000 pesos. So, paki-confirm nga, paki-check nga po kung yung 75,000 is 60% of 125. So, let's try to compute. Balikan natin dito. 75,000 divided by 125,000. So, that is 60%. So, tama nga na ang total manufacturing cost is 60% of the cost of goods manufactured. Nakakuha po ba, class? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Alright. Now,
Yes.
kaya na po bang computein yung total cost of goods available for sale?
Yes po.
Alright. Magkano ang cost of goods available for sale?
195,000 po.
195. Kaya na po bang computein ang cost of goods sold?
Yes po.
Magkano po?
Yes po.
110,000.
110. So, 110. Dahil na-compute na natin to, kaya na po ba natin? Malakas na po ba yung loob natin na computein yung nasa taas? Kaya na po ba? Ito. So, na-compute na pala natin yung nakataas eh. Kaya na po ba? Dito. Ano sabi daw ng
Yes.
problem? Ang raw materials used is 20% ng total manufacturing cost. So, kung 20% daw yan ang total manufacturing cost, magkano yung raw materials used mo?
15,000 po.
15,000.
15,000 pesos. So, that's correct. Tama na po, no? So, kung yung raw materials used mo is 15,000 pesos, kaya na po bang computein yung raw materials ND?
Yes po.
Magkano
Yes.
po?
37,000 pesos po.
37,000 pesos. So, that is correct. 37,000 pesos. Ngayon, kaya na po bang computein yung direct labor sa factory overhead? Kaya na po ba? Balikan natin yung problem. Balikan natin yung problem, ha? Anong sabi? So, total manufacturing cost was 60% of the cost of goods sold. Tapos 20% daw nun is from the raw materials used. So lumalabas, ito daw ay 80%, diba? So this is 80% of the total manufacturing cost. So kung 80% yan, sinabi ba ng problem na paghiwalayin sila, na i-identify daw ang direct labor sa factory?
Hindi po.
Hindi.
Hindi.
So wag na natin pahirapan yung sarili natin. Kunin na natin yung total conversion cost. Magkano yung total conversion cost mo? 60,000.
1,000 po.
So, nakuha na natin. So, ganito lang yung gross profit estimation. So, you have to squeeze ka ng squeeze based doon sa available information. So, kapag may nakita ka ganito, binigay sa'yo ng problem, 20% ng ganito, ng total manufacturing cost, ang raw materials, 80% ng direct labor. So, ganun lang. Identify mo lang siya. So, that is the how we compute using the gross profit estimation. So, hanapin natin, ano ba yung mga tanong? Raw materials used from January 1 to April 30. Magkano yung raw materials used nyo? 15,000 pesos. Tama po ba? Nakakasunod po ba? Raw materials
Yes po.
Yes.
January
Yes
1 to April 30. Answer, 15,000 pesos. Second, raw materials destroyed by fire on April 30. So, anong sabi ng problem? Ang binigay lang is raw materials beginning. So, lumalabas, itong raw materials ending mo, ito yung inventory loss due to fire. So, magkano daw yung raw materials destroyed by fire? 37,000 pesos. So, ito yung na-destroy ng fire. Kasi, hindi na na-identify yung ending balance ng raw materials end. Wala nang na-conduct na physical count. So, ang ginawa natin, in-estimate na lang natin yung raw materials ending. Nakukuha po ba? Nakakasunod po ba, class?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Alright.
Yes po.
So, yan po yan. And then, cost of goods manufactured. Magkano yung cost of goods manufactured po ninyo?
125,000.
125,000 pesos. And then, ika-apat, total sales from January 1 to April 30. Magkano yung total sales? Kayang-kaya na bang computein yung sales? Balikan yung problem. Ano
Yes
sabi
po.
ng problem?
50%.
50% markup based on cost. Magkano yung cost nyo? Cost of goods sold? 110. Tama po ba? So, if your cost of goods sold is 110,000 pesos, tapos you add markup, so you multiply it by 150%. Because 100% is the cost of goods sold plus the 50% markup, then that is the sales price. So, your sales revenue for the period January 1 hanggang April 30, magkano po?
165,000.
Nakukuha po ba? Nagigets po ba?
Yes po.
Alright.
Yes po.
So, nakuha na natin yung requirement from 1 up to 4. Any questions? Any more questions regarding sample problem for gross profit estimation? Any more questions? None so far. So, I think your deafening silence tells me na okay na, naintindihan na po ninyo, no? So, if ever you have questions, you can chat me, you can send me chat through Facebook or kaya doon sa group chat natin. So, class, next meeting, we will discuss again some of the accounting inventory estimations. So, the retail inventory, saka yung standard costing, alam nyo na yan, napag-aralan nyo na yan sa cost accounting. So, siguro, sagutan na lang natin isang problem doon sa handouts natin. So, try natin sabay-sabay. No? So, thank you, class, for joining our call for today, our meeting for today. I hope you learned something new. Just continue to answer the handout materials that I gave you. So, bibigay ko pa yung ibang handout materials. So, eventually, matapos natin inventory and then yung PPE na tayo. Thank you so much, class. Class dismissed.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you, sir.